Okay, so I've just finished Starfield. Not quite the main story, but I finished Starfield when it comes to the Ryujin quest, the Freestar Collective quest, the United Colonies quest, as well as the Crimson Raider quest. And the only one that I still have left to do is the main mission, as well as the House of Room missions, which comes in from the DLC. And at this point, I don't quite feeling like completing it. So I'll just make a thought video, just like Co. Um, so, so what do I think of the game so far? Now, the fact that I don't want to complete it should speak volume to what I think of it. Overall, I think the game is fine. It has a lot of fun aspect, also a lot of rough edges. Um, and the fun aspect is what kept me playing for like 50, 60 hours at this point. But at the same time, it's also this rough edges and also some game design decisions that maybe not want to continue. So just to talk about the game generally about how I feel. So I think the game really reminds me of. It feels like an evolution of Bethesda, but not in a good way. So I first played the Bethesda game Skyrim in like probably 10 years ago at this point, and at this point I was amazed at how well the game managed to immerse myself in the environment. I was incredibly astonished by just how much I feel like I'm the Dragonborn, right? I'm just dropping this what's sort of called, I think, Riverside Village. I forgot the name, but and there's a dragon attacking, and we're escaping the prison, and there's the Empire, and there's Stormcloak fighting each other, and you can join numerous factions, like Dark Brotherhood. There are all these different cities, and it's just wonderful. Um, I feel like the NPCs are alive. They have their routine lives, and I have my routine life. I can do anything I want. I can learn incredibly interesting magic, or it can be a sneak archer, or I can just loot a bunch of things. It can be a sneaky thief and just steals everything and sells it. So that was incredibly interesting. And then the next Bethesda game I played was the Elder Scrolls Online. Now that one wasn't particularly good. I tried it numerous times, but none of the time I was actually super impressed with it. Just because there's too much MMO in there for me to enjoy. There's just too many immersion breaking stuff happening, like how they have a horse they can use to traverse the system, but the issue is the horse is super slow, and the map is super big, and you can upgrade your horse to make it faster, but the issue it has a 20-hour cooldown, so effectively you can upgrade it only once per day, but every time you can only upgrade it by 1%, and there's 60% you can upgrade, which means you're effectively locked into playing this game for 6 days until you can get a horse that's decently fast and have a traverse. And that just feels incredibly immersion booking. There's absolutely no reason for it. And whenever I see the system, whenever I'm just riding a super slow horse, I just realize I'm playing an MMO, and that just pulled me out of the moment. So so I stopped the game. Okay, so I didn't enjoy Outer Shore Online nearly as much as I did Skyrim. Then the next game that I played was Fallout 4, and Fallout 4 was an interesting experience because, well, initially I didn't like it either, just because it also has a lot of technical issues, like how basically the graphics is really bad. Like, because Fallout 4 and Witcher 3 came out at the same time, and Witcher 3 is light years ahead of Fallout 4 when it comes to just facial animations, lighting, environment design, and quest, and all the kind of things. But even just come to when it comes to technical aspect, Witcher 3 is just so much more polished. that after playing Witcher 3 and playing Fallout 4, it was just a pain. So I didn't really. I played a little bit, and I got turned off by a lot of the things that I mentioned. But eventually, I think after a couple of years, I went and picked it back up, just because I think it was part of my modding spree, because I'm modding Skyrim a lot. And I was like, huh, now that I'm done modding Skyrim, let me mod Fallout 4. And I got some interesting mod in there, and I started playing a little bit, and I started to enjoy it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Um, I also played it on and off, probably for. I have a playlist thing actually here too, but I played at least, I think 50 hours too. I did finish the main quest of Fallout 4. I also think I finished the brother. Yeah, I finished the Brotherhood and the Institute Railroad quest, and I think the Midnight quest as well. And the reason I'm talking about this when I went to a video about Starfield is I feel like Fallout 4 is sort of the midway point between Starfield and Elder Scroll. Uh, and I feel like because Fallout 4 basically has, if you think of Fallout 4 and you look at some of their previous games like Fallout 3 and New Vegas, um, now I understand New Vegas is not made by them, but still it's similar enough to Fallout 3. And I have played New Vegas, so from what have seen, New Vegas has a much better RPG system than Fallout 4. But Fallout 4 is a much more interesting game to play when it comes to gunplay than New Vegas, because New Vegas, literally the guns are just like plastic toys, and just like it feels like awful to just play the game. Although it feels great to roleplay in it, it feels awful to play actually. And I think Bethesda elevated on the front of gameplay in Fallout 4. It came at a cost of role playing. It came at a cost of multiple paths for of quest. Right, you can either help a person or in one way or the other, or you can just kill them or something, or you can help a faction or another faction. It's completely up to you. You can have a different outcome for different quests. But I think these things were gone in Fallout 4. But one thing they did retain was great exploration. Fallout 4 Boston was actually quite vividly recreated, um, and it has a lot of interesting environment to look at, like the libraries, the ship on top of the building, all these kind of things. Quite interesting. Um, so it's basically it created better gameplay at the cost of storytelling and role playing. And I think not Vegas. I think Starfield is the same idea basically. Starfield is a much, much, much better game than Fallout 4 when it comes to gameplay. Like the gunplay is very satisfying. The what's it called? The movement is a lot better. The graphics is a lot better. The gun actually looks really clean. You have all kinds of them. But that's, I think, where the improvement ends. I think, to my mind, the improvements are only the graphics and the gameplay. Now, if Fallout 4 is kind of like a roguelike shooter or something, like if it's like Borderlands, then I think it would have been okay. Uh, where you had a better game when it comes to gameplay and graphics, if that's all people cared about. But when it comes to Bethesda games, these are actually two things that people care about the least. Because if you look at Skyrim, one of the games that people really, really like, or even if you look back to Oblivion and Morrowind, where those are the games that I haven't played, but I know a lot of people really enjoy these. But if you look at these games, none of them have super interesting graphics or gameplay. Like the combat is always like wet noodles in Bethesda games, and the graphics is almost always the downside. Like their game never looks very good compared to the contemporary competitors. So, but they always has a really good immersive experience. They can pull you into the world and make you feel like you're a character, and then give you very interesting exploration and role playing opportunities. And I feel like they've traded that in Starfield for better graphics and gameplay. um, because I think the exploration aspect suffered. I think exploration aspect is not as good as Fallout 4. Although I think, for instance, the city neon here is very well crafted. I think it looks quite good. And I think New Atlantis also looks okay. There are a few issues. First is just these cities don't feel like they have a soul, for lack of a better word for it. It does kind of feel like it's crafted for you, just for you to experience it, and not like its own living and breathing city. Um, I'm not quite sure why it feels like that way. I mean, there are many contributors. For instance, one thing is the NPCs in this game can look quite weird, especially their eyes, and it's just very immersion breaking. Like you have these are actually looking fine, but a lot of time they have see this guy. It doesn't look right. It doesn't look it doesn't look normal. And yeah, they just start looking at you in weird ways, and they start walking and bumping into each other. And there are just numerous bugs. Not even just with NPC, with your companions too. Like Sarah, there's so many times when you just fast travel into a place, or even just take an elevator, and your companion just like would just run forward like 50 miles an hour, and usually there's a wall ahead of them, so they would just run forward into the wall, like this, for like 5 seconds, and that's just something you need to learn to ignore because that's very immersion breaking. And there are also issues such as I think a lot of people already talked about, which is just too many loading screens. I personally don't usually mind loading screens, but this is definitely a bit much when it comes to loading screens, especially if you add it with other drawbacks that the game suffers from. They all contribute to pulling you out of the experience. Yeah, and I'm just kind of disappointed because I've been looking forward to another Bethesda game for a long time because of how much I enjoyed Skyrim, and it's been so long. I think Skyrim came out 2011 or something, and yeah, so it's 14. I mean 13 years probably, or 12 years that Starfield came out. Since the last, I think, quote unquote good Bethesda games, because they've since launched the Elder Scrolls Online, which I don't care about. They launched Fallout 4, which is okay. I don't consider it great. I consider it a good game. Then they launched Fallout Online, which is terrible as well. And they have Starfield now, which I don't think is a terrible game. As I've said, I played it for like 50 hours and enjoyed most of the time with it. But it also has big issues. Um, yeah, I'm just kind of disappointed. It's been a while since I've anticipated something for a long time, and then just to get thoroughly thrashed it when it comes to the product that I got. And it will be a while until Bethesda makes the next game, and from what I heard, the next one will be Elder Scrolls. Um, but I'm just looking at this. I'm not sure if it's gonna cut it because this game has a lot of those Bethesda quirks that I think was charming in Skyrim. That was kind of meme, but here it kind of becomes like a burden. For instance, one example I think of, when you talk to NPCs, a lot of time they need to get off from the whatever they're sitting on to talk to you, and that's just super awkward because you're pressing talk to an NPC, and you're like slowly get up. It'll take like 5 seconds, and then start talking to you. Okay, or sometimes you're talking to NPC and NPC is like his back's faced with you. Okay, and the conversation will start, and your camera will cut to cut in front of you into his back. Okay, you'll be talking to the guy's back, and it's like a 50-50 if he turns around. Sometimes he'll just be talking to you with his back turned on you the whole time. And not to mention, just your companions goofing around. Like sometimes the NPC just get stuck in some place and start vibrating crazily. Like all these kind of stuff was kind of funny in Skyrim, but here it's just not that much anymore. Here it does feel like a severe drawback on the game, and I think, um, generally speaking, after playing these faction quests, I'm not that impressed with the writing quality. Other than the Terramorph quest from UC Collective, I never felt super excited or compelled to do something because I feel like there's kind of just like nothing at stake, which is okay. If you have like good exploration and I really want to see what's happening or what other planets are like. Um, and I had the examiner for a while. Like for instance, when I first came to Neo, I was like, "Wow, this city looks great," but that disappears pretty quickly because it's not that cool of a city. For instance, I think Cyberpunk has much cooler cities than Starfield. So yeah, it just doesn't hold its captivation for more than a little bit, and a lot of times it just feels like there's no reason to go to many of these places. For instance, like a lot of these shops, especially weapon shops, they just don't have super interesting weapons. Like everything has every shop has something. It's not like you can have a super unique weapon, in one shop and one planet, but the other planet has this unique weapon. They kind of have uniques, but it kind of sucks. Um, and yeah, so that makes it less exciting to just run to a different planet and discover different shops because there's really not a big reason to go and check it out just because you're 99% sure there's nothing there you actually want. The only thing you want to do is sell your items. And yeah, that just takes away from the very cool cities that I've crafted. Um, yeah, I think Neon is the best city they've made. I really enjoy it. I think New Atlantis I actually don't like that much. It feels kind of empty. It feels kind of fake. Um, that goes with most cities, but I think especially New Atlantis, it just doesn't feel like it's a legitimate or a real thing to play. And also, they have a lot of quests in this game, a lot of side quests, and a lot of time you're gonna see NPCs like or guards or people in the bar just randomly talk about a thing and that'll pop up as a side quest. And I have a lot of them right now. Like you can see the activities, as well as all these other ones. And the issue is, majority of them I don't find super interesting. It's like the complete opposite from Witcher side quest, which is usually actually quite enjoyable in themselves. If you play Witcher 3, you have to play the side quests because a lot of time they're more interesting than main quests. And because they provide, not only do they provide a good narrative experience, but they also and allow you to explore the world they've built. But also a lot of time they have unexpected twists. They're not going where you think it is. Whereas, here in Starfield quest lines, there's just not that much surprises, and also nothing is. There's no unexpected turn, very little, at least, in the storytelling, and also there's not really any super new ideas that catch me amazed. Um, it's just kind of generic space Fallout, but I kind of like the original Fallout more because here it's kind of hard to believe everything. It just doesn't feel real. I feel at least I feel like the hardship and everything is more believable. Yeah. I feel like Bethesda kind of. I admire Todd Howard's sort of ambition. I admire his willingness to make something this big, but I feel like it is stretching Bethesda's to extent. As I understand, Bethesda is not a super big studio. It's not like Rockstar who made GTA 5. From my understanding, it's also not like Cyberpunk or City Project Red. They have like I think they have like 1,000 people employee, and if you think of Ubisoft, I think Ubisoft have like 10,000 employees. So, but I think if you want to make something big like this, right? There's so many things that goes into the equation. You want interesting exploration. You want interesting narrative, interesting combat, interesting, RPG elements, interesting character progression. So, but all interesting, weapon system and all that kind of jazz. And they've shoved a decent bunch of things in here. For instance, they have an interesting shipbuilding system. They have, I think, cool gunplay. From what I heard, they have a cool outpost system. Now the thing is, I didn't, you know, play too much with the shipbuilding mechanic. No, I didn't actually do anything with the outpost mechanic. Nor would they super integrate it into the game itself. You can kind of ignore them and still play fine. And there, I think, lies the problem. So they're trying to make too many things. They're trying to make sort of like a space fantasy that has mostly shooting based. Um, so you want good gunplay, and you also want good environment, good story, good traversal. Um, but they also want to make it like a space dogfighting game. So they've added that. They also wanted to have outpost management. So they added that. And I think all these, it just feels too loose. Like nothing is super good, and not to mention having everything very well put together. Like, because if you think of GTA 5, right? The majority, like everything sort of works together very well. And the same goes for RDR2, right? Redemption. Whereas here, you can have a cool ship, but the thing is, who do you fight? That's my biggest problem. Like, right now, I have the couple R, right? And previous I was using Star Eagle. These are very cool ships, and I think space combat is cool. It's not super in depth, but I think it's cool enough. But I never really feel. Once I get the Star Eagle, I don't really feel I face any challenge in combat, space combat anymore, and it doesn't really get more interesting or exciting or mechanically challenging. It's still a cool thing to take part in, but just like what can you do to have big space fights? You can just kind of run around and hope to run into some pirates, and then you can kill them. But it's just like, oh, you had 1 minute, 2 minutes fun, and that's it. And you gotta chase around the space to have fun. That feels kind of strange. And yeah, and they made this huge world, which admittedly I think a lot of places still looks very good, but I think they fumbled on the side quest. I don't really love how the side quests portray themselves. It's usually just a fetch quest with not nothing really interesting. Just talk to this guy, talk to this guy, talk to this guy, and there's no interesting twist or realization they're making us about. They're making about the world. It's just very simple quest, and that's just I think that might have been okay if the game was made once again. If the game was made when Skyrim came out, if it came out with Skyrim, I think this would have been like really really good. Now, obviously, because graphics would be insane, but I think some of this drawbacks would have been overlooked just because we didn't really have anything on this scale. But nowadays, we just have better games that came out before, at the time, probably after Starfield. Side quests, just for example, right, a couple of games I played that are also very very long. I played Witcher 3. I played Baldur's Gate 3. I played Persona 5 Royal. And these are all very long games. Now, Persona 5 Royal is arguably longer than Starfield. I played that game for like 100 hours. And I didn't recall being nearly as sort of tired to play the game or as I've felt for Starfield. Because the thing is, I played a little bit of the House Maroon quest, which is the DLC, I still haven't finished it. I haven't finished the main quest, but I just honestly I don't feel like playing anymore. I feel it's kind of boring. I feel it's kind of monotonous, and there's nothing new, interesting that's the game is throwing on my way. It's just kind of boring quest. For instance, the Ravaging quest, as well as the Sistef quest, a lot of time they ask you to stealth, but stealth is just not very effective because people just detect you super quickly, and you're just gonna reload over time. And if you like just try to kill everybody, which is what you build these characters to do, the characters, your companions just look super upset, and the Sistef get upset if you kill people during their quest. Ravaging get upset. So it's just not very fun to play, man. And the story is not that interesting. Exploration is not interesting, especially on the planets. And I think the city is fine, but on the barren planets, the exploration is basically non-existent, which I think is a big downgrade from Fallout, because Fallout always had like interesting environments because they basically put the entire Boston and um, made it into their own thing, like post-apocalyptic Boston, and they have interesting facilities. Like they have a library, they have MIT basically. They have financial district. They have like hospitals and all these kind of things. And it's interesting how Boston would have evolved after a nuclear apocalypse. But here, everything is, especially on the planet, is very barren. There's like a few that has faunas and things on it, which I actually quite enjoy exploring. But the majority of them are like have nothing on them, except for a few outposts, which actually look very similar internally. So there's very little reason to actually explore the. I think what Todd is saying, like thousands of planets in the game, um, because it's just nothing interesting on them. And those that actually have interesting on them, interesting things on them, like Neon, I feel like the quests are not as interesting as I would want to really fully immerse myself. It doesn't have the vibe. Like Neon has a very cyberpunky vibe, but if you played Cyberpunk, like I think you can immediately tell the difference. Like Cyberpunk is so much cooler in almost every other way. I mean, honestly, I would say it's just superior in pretty much every way possible. It looks way cooler. It's way bigger, right? Neon, like, it's a small city, and the gunplay is also a lot cooler. They have more interesting and guns, and also melee gunplay is more interesting. Um, they also have a little. I don't think it has like a ton of like decision altering quests, like narrative altering decisions in the quest. But I think it has a few. At least the final battle will have your previous decision considered. But here in Starfield, everything seems kind of pointless. For instance, I played the Sistef versus what's it called, Crimson Fleet quest, and I sided with the Crimson Fleet, and I killed basically everything on the UC Vigilance. And then I was like, I made a huge enemy out of the UC. Okay, now I gotta think of like how I basically gotta pay off the bounty or something, or maybe they have a quest for me to make peace with the UC or something. But then I realized I could just, after the quest, I could just literally walk to the Atlantis. I can just dock there. I can just walk on the street, and there's like zero bounty on me, right? And it's things like these. It's just not super immersive. And when the game stopped being immersive, um, people will start getting bored, especially when it comes to the Starfield game like Starfield, which is very narrative and exploration based. At the moment, the game loses its grasp on its players is when people will go away. When your attention is not on the game, you go away. And I think Starfield has failed to grab my attention, which kind of sucks. But with that said, there's a lot of good games on the market right now that I'm still excited to play. Um, yeah, it just kind of sucks that Bethesda, I feel like, has just lost its ways. Similar to how I feel like BioWare has lost its ways. Because one of my favorite series is also just the Mass Effect series. But seeing how they've done the Andromeda, as well as Anthem. Now, I've heard the Dragon Age is not that great either. Um, yeah, it's sad that it's come to this, but at the same time, there are a lot of good new studios coming out, so it's not all hope is lost. For instance, we got CD Projekt Red, which is doing great. We have Larian, which is making really good games. I think Rockstar is still as steady as ever. Their games are probably gonna be just a good hit, and everyone's excited. And there's a WoW, right? Obsidian is making interesting games. WoW, they're making Outer Worlds, which I absolutely love. And I think a lot of Japanese studios are carrying the game industry. I heard the new Dynasty Warrior is actually quite fun. Um, they've after like I think what like 20 years of underperformance, they finally made a good Dynasty Warrior games. And of course, there's everybody's favorite, the FromSoft, which I personally don't care about. They are making good games as well. So and also there's Nier, right? The Platinum Studio making Nier Automata, amazing game. Or the Yakuza Studio, right? They're making good JRPGs. Um, Also, Nintendo stuff is good. I really like Monolith Soft Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, 3. Quite amazing. I think Zelda is also quite good. I think Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, I played on emulator, and it's not only looks but also plays just wonderfully. So we still have a lot going on for us in the game industry. Um, yeah, so it is not without pain for me to say goodbye to the Starfield because I wanted to like it. I wanted it to be very, very good, to be an absolute fantastic space fantasy. But as it turns out, I enjoyed much less than I enjoyed The Outer Worlds, which is a much smaller budget game. Um, and that made me realize I need to know when to quit. I can't just, because I realize whenever I'm playing, I'm not actually having that much fun. I'm just trying to finish things. I'm trying to skip through dialogues, basically. And I feel like that's a sign. That's a sign that I should stop because I'm really not enjoying it anymore. I'm just doing it for the sake of doing it. But at the same time, that makes me happy because that means I get to play games that I actually enjoy now. Um, there are actually quite a few of them in my backlog. I feel like I should first finish my Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough. Um, then we'll see what we can do because there are so many games that I want to play that I haven't played. For instance, I haven't played God of War. I haven't played the Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, or Final Fantasy 16, and I think they'll all be great. So I'm quite excited. So I guess the lesson that Starfield told me is knowing when to quit. Yeah, but I'm still glad that I experienced it. Because I would have been thinking about it for a long time if I didn't. So I guess time to conclude what I think about Starfield. It is a fine game. It is like Fallout 4 with better gunplay, worse exploration, and like a comparable level of storytelling. It has a lot of minor issues, like have a lot of minor technical issues. And in order to enjoy the game, you need to be able to look, to overlook these small technical issues, like weird NPC faces, like glitches, like people running around crazily. Um, like a lot of loading screens. I like people NPC talking to you while facing the other direction all the time. Or like if you're doing stealth mission and you have your companions, uh, a lot of times you just run around and get spotted, and the security will just see his companion and be like, "Oh, I see your companion. Although you're hiding, I see your companion, so I know exactly now where you are now, and I will run straight to you." Um, if you can ignore all these things, then I think Starfield can be a good experience. I don't think it will ever be a fantastic experience. Once again, because it lacks any of the thing that makes like masterpiece games masterpiece. If you look at Witcher 3, right? It has fine gameplay, but very good world building and very, very good stories. If you look at, GTA 5, it has quite a good story and a really, really good exploration and also pretty cool gameplay. If you look at Red Dead Redemption 2, it has really realistic exploration. It has an amazing story, right? And it has okay gameplay. And like if you look at Persona 5, it has really, really good storytelling, okay gameplay. And the unfailing part of all these games is like you have to have at least one aspect of the game to be absolutely marvelous, right? Absolutely amazing. For Starfield, its strength is graphics and gameplay. But none of these are like super out of the world. Because first of all, you're never gonna be like a super awesome game just because your game looks good, right? It just doesn't happen. Like for instance, the Hell's Blade or something. Like there was an interactive sort of like almost movie kind of game that's out nowadays. Like there's Hell's Blade 1, Hell's Blade 2. I think they look very good, but they're not that good of a game. Just because good graphics doesn't make good games. And yeah, but the other aspect, the Starfield good as gameplay, but the Starfield gameplay is good only if you look at like Bethesda games. Like it has really, really good gameplay compared to like Fallout 4, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, or Skyrim. But if you really think about it, if you really look at it, it doesn't hold a candle to things like to the actual game that has where the combat is the focus, basically. So it's sort of this middle of nowhere thing, uh, which is quite unfortunate for itself. Yeah. But that should conclude my thoughts for the game. It's okay. It's okay. I think there are better games out there to spend your time on. But if you have already played those amazing games and you want to try something different, it's not a terrible game. So yeah. So that is my verdict.